Okay, hi, my name is Chase Heckerman, and I'm doing my PowerPoint screen capture topic on the hardest 14ers in Colorado. I've climbed a bunch of them. It's my passion. I love to climb mountains and always in for a challenge. And some 14ers are easier than others, and some are very difficult. Some you could possibly die on. And so I'm just going to be explaining probably the unanimous kind of agreement among climbers on what the hardest 14ers in Colorado are. I guess I should explain. 14ers are obviously 14,000 foot high summits. They're the highest summits in the Rocky Mountains, so they're called 14ers. And some are easier than others. So let's kind of get into some of the hardest ones. Um, Pyramid Peak, it's barely 14,000 feet, but don't let the 14,025 foot high summit fool you. Both of the main routes, the Northeast Ridge route and the Keyhole route, are both very dangerous. They're both at least class 4 routes. Class 4 means that there's very intense steep climbing, the possibility of falling rocks, and the possibility of fatal falls. So that's what class 4 means. Part of the reason why Pyramid Peak is so dangerous is because there's route finding, and that means basically that you could get lost. Basically, if you can't find the main routes, they're hard to follow. If you get lost on the route, then you're screwed, basically. And you can see even in the picture here, it's a very dangerous looking mountain, and it very much lives up to that expectation. There's very steep climbing, very loose rocks. There's the potential for fatal falls. People have died on this mountain, even in the summer. So it is very much a deadly mountain. So moving on, there's Mount Wilson. You can kind of see it here. It doesn't look that, I guess, dangerous, but obviously don't kind of let the picture fool you. The North Slopes Trail is also a class 4 climb, but it's a very intense class 4 climb. It's among the most dangerous standard route on a 14er. There's very intense snow travel. You need ice axes to even be able to navigate the last about 400 feet of the mountain, because there's very intense glaciers at the top. They don't melt when you're up that high. And there's also a ridge which connects Mount Wilson to El Diente Peak nearby. It's about a mile-long ridge. It's very sharp. It's very rocky, and it requires very difficult scrambling among the rocks. Scrambling is when you have to use your hands and your feet to navigate the rocks, and you can fall. So it's very dangerous. There's also the possibility that you need to use rappelling ropes to be able to get by. So very dangerous peak. And then unanimously the second most dangerous 14er in Colorado is Little Bear Peak. Little Bear Peak is it doesn't sound that dangerous, because Little Bear Peak, it sounds kind of like, oh, let's go bring the kids and climb the mountain. But no, it's technically one of the most dangerous 14ers to climb. This is one of the main reasons, even though the prominence of the mountain itself, I mean, you look at this picture here, it's only about 300 foot prominence from the ground, even though the summit itself is about 14,040 feet or so. It's only a 300 foot prominent mountain, but the 300 feet that you have to climb here is very dangerous. There's something called the Hourglass Slab, which is a very intense rock fall possibility. So when you're climbing this slab, there's always the possibility that an avalanche could happen. Many people have died on this mountain, more than most 14ers, because of the possibility of rock fall from this so-called hourglass slab here. Avalanches have killed people. There have been people who have been lost in the snow that have had to be rescued, even in the summer. So this is definitely a peak that you don't want to mess around with. There's a connecting ridge to Blanca Peak nearby, which is only for very experienced climbers, and it's very challenging. Once you commit to crossing this ridge, you're committed. You can't go back, and so it's very dangerous. It's very scary. I've climbed this mountain. And it was one of the scariest experiences of my life. I climbed it with my dad, but yeah. And then the most dangerous 14er, arguably, in Colorado, and one of the most dangerous mountains, period, in North America, is Capitol Peak. one of the routes is called the Northwest Buttress Route. It's a class 5.9, so almost a class 6. So very intense. It requires rappelling. You have to be able to know what you're doing. This ridge right here, on the right, you see this ridge here. It's called the knife edge. This is where a lot of deaths occur. You have to cross this ridge on the Northwest Buttress Route. And I mean, you can just look at it. It looks very dangerous. A lot of daredevils attempt this. You don't attempt it unless you have tried your fair share of 14ers and you know what you're doing. Countless fatalities have occurred on this mountain. I mean, you see the mountain itself. It's very steep, very ridgy along this edge here. That's the knife's edge around right here. And it's just very dangerous. So I think this is the 14er with the most amount of deaths, even in the summer. So certainly Capitol Peak. And I believe that people have attempted to climb this peak with their dogs before, and that has not ended well, unfortunately. But this is definitely a peak that you don't want to mess around with. And so yeah, that's kind of the gist of some of the most dangerous 14ers in Colorado. Thank you.